Hey everyone, welcome to today's training on how to label your home baked goods. So today we're going to be talking all about whether you're just starting out as a home-based baker or whether you are already on your way in your cottage food baking journey. Today we're going to be talking about all of the ins and outs of labeling your home baked goods. So this is going to help you to stay compliant on your cottage food or your state regulations for labeling. Now, in today's video, I'm going to be sharing some state-specific information that's going to help you to understand what goes on your label. I'm also going to be giving an overview of my two favorite ways to print labels. We're going to be talking about using the Munbyn printer, which is a thermal printer, and we're going to be talking about all the ins and outs of printing at home with like a Deskjet or a home printer using those Avery templates. Then I'm going to give you an overview of kind of a cost breakdown. Which one is a better value for you when you're just getting started out, getting started, and then we're going to take a look at the benefits of each printer for you in your home baking business. So we're going to be diving deep into labeling your home baked goods. And if that's something you're interested in, then by all means, stick around for today's training because I'm about to share all the information regarding labeling your home baked goods. Now, I have been teaching about cottage food regulations for probably 4 years now, but I've been a cottage baker going way back to pre-2000. I think I started, well, not pre-2000. I started my home-based bakery in, I should know this date off the top of my head, but 2003. It was 2003 when I started my home-based bakery. And I remember that feeling of kind of feeling lost and having a lot of questions about your home-based bakery. And nowadays, there's so much more information out there, but it's not always clear. So today, I just kind of want to get straight through to the most important information when it comes to labeling, because labeling is one of these things where you really just want to get out there and sell your products, but you're getting kind of hung up on all of the legalities of printing your labels and what goes on it and all of that kind of stuff. And it can feel intimidating. It can possibly make you feel like this is too much work. This home baking venture that I'm on is maybe not what I thought it was going to be. And I want to just be that voice of encouragement that says, once you master this, it gets easier. And labeling is one of those things that requires a little bit of work in the beginning. But like I said, once you figure it out, once you find your preferred method, you're going to be dialed in, spitting out those labels in no time and moving on to bigger and better things like making a profit in your baking business, finding regular customers, and basically all the things that we talk about in my Facebook group, Home Bakery Business Tips. So today I'm streaming this training in Home Bakery Business Tips and also on YouTube. So if you're watching on YouTube, give me a like and a follow and check out the description below this video for information about joining the Home Bakery Business Tips Facebook community. And if you're watching from within the Home Bakery Business Tips Facebook community, then this is just one of those awesome perks that comes with being in the group. And we get lots of free trainings and resources and things to just help you sell your baked goods with ease. So that's what we're all about here. All right, so today, like I said, we're going to be going over those state specifics for your labeling requirements. We're also going to dive into, I did a really fun price breakdown of what it costs to use a Munbyn or a Bluetooth thermal printer for a year and what it costs to use your Deskjet or home printer with your Avery labels for a year. So stick around till the end if you are interested in knowing which one is a better investment of your time and money in your business. So let's dive right in. Okay, so the first thing we want to talk about is it's really important to get clear on what the requirements are for your label. And I have several resources to share with you here. So first of all, if you're just getting started, if you're at the beginning stages of learning about selling baked goods from your home under the cottage food laws, then you might have some questions about what goes on your label. And so I'm going to be sharing some resources. Like I said, YouTube, it's under the description for this video. Facebook group, you can scroll up to the pinned featured post for the group, and you will find a resource that is called the state-by-state guidelines. And so in that post, in that link, you're going to basically find a blog post that I wrote, which is designed to help you kind of get straight through. So I have every state is linked in there. And that link goes to your state organization that governs your cottage food laws. And you guys, I actually used to charge for that in my home bakery regulations course. That was one of the things that we worked really hard on, was identifying the source for our information. And I was just like, you know what, let's put that information out there. So that link, it's really valuable information. You can click on the state that you're in. It will take you to your state guidelines. And from there, you can get right down to the logistics of what your state requires on your label. So there are 5 components or 5 key areas that you may be required to list on your label. First and foremost, your business name and contact information. So for some people, you're going to be required to list your home address, which I know is kind of a little bit, I don't know how to say it, but some people just don't like putting their home address on their label. Some states allow you to put your PO box. Some states allow you to put an email or a phone number, and some states actually require you to list your home address. So let me know in the comments below this video what your state requires, because, you know, I wish that we could just move away from giving away our home address. And I hope that one day that will happen. But for now, you have to go with what your state requires. So my state allows me to do a PO box, which is really nice because I get to use that instead of putting my home address on there. But you first and foremost want to know which you are required to list for your business contact information. So that is number 1. Number 2 is your ingredient list. Now, here is where I feel like the pool of home bakers gets divided, because we all need to list our ingredients in descending order, but some home bakers need to list the sub ingredients as well. So if you use rainbow sprinkles on your cake pops, then you not only have to list all the ingredients in your cake pops, but you have to list the ingredients in those rainbow sprinkles as well. And for some people, that list can be really long, and that presents an entire set of challenges in and of itself, because every ingredient that you use in your baking adds another list of things that go on your label. So let me know in the comments if you identify with the challenge of listing your sub ingredients. So you need to find out whether your state requires you to list your ingredients or your sub ingredients. And again, you can do that through that link, the state-by-state guidelines, that blog post that I have. Just click on that and click on your state, and then you'll be able to scroll down to your labeling requirements and see what your state asks. And again, Facebook group, it's pinned in the featured posts. YouTube, it's in the description below this video. Okay, so there's 2. Next up is your allergen warnings. Are you required to give an allergen disclosure, and then noting whatever allergens are in your product? Contains soy, contains wheat, contains dairy. There are 7 major allergens, and if you have to do an allergen disclosure, then you need to list which 7 of those are available. In that blog post that I'm talking about, I actually give you like a verbatim verbiage for what to say in your allergen disclosure. And that is something that you need to allow room for on your label. So now we're up to 3. We've got business name, ingredients, whether you're sub-list, sub-ingredients or just regular ingredients, and then allergen warning. Next piece of information that goes on your home bakery label is your net weight. And this is just like grams or ounces, how much that product in the package weighs. And one tip that works for me is to leave the net weight blank. And that way, whether I am using my chocolate chip cookie label for minis or for larges or for jumbos, if it's the same recipe, I could just pop it on the scale once I have it in its bag, see how much it weighs, and then write it in by hand. Now that works really well for me. I have never heard of anybody who says that they have to have their net weight printed. So that's a really good trick if you sell the same recipe in multiple sizes. And then 5th, these are the 5 key ingredients or the 5 key elements that go on your label. The 5th one is your cottage food operations statement. And this is just going to be whatever your state requires you to say. So this is like, might sound like something like this product is manufactured in a home-based kitchen, which is not subject to state inspections. And your state will tell you if you need to have that statement on your label. Now, some home bakers are going to need to have all 5 of those components on their label, and some aren't. And that really dictates what type of label you're going to end up creating for your products. So if you live in a state where you don't have to have sub-ingredients and you don't have to have a cottage food operations statement and you don't have to have an allergen warning, then you might be a baker who is able to do sort of a combined label. And that is a label that has all your required information and your logo. It's sort of like an all-in-one label. But if you're a baker who lives in a state that requires the sub-ingredients and a cottage food operation disclosure, then you're probably going to want to have a label that is just your cottage food label, and then sort of like a logo sticker as well, which contains information about your business name and maybe a QR code for how to contact you, or your Facebook links or your Instagram links. So the reason you might want to separate those is just because the amount of information, if you're required to do all 5, it's going to be so much that it's going to feel too crowded to then get sort of your branded information on there. So let me know in the comments if you are somebody who is doing an all-in-one label, or if you're somebody who goes for a 2-label type of packaging where you're listing or where you're putting a sticker on with your brand, and then maybe on the back side you're doing your cottage food requirements. So those are sort of the 2 options when it comes to how you're going to approach labeling. Now, all that being said, now we can start to talk about how you want to print those labels. And with our labeling, we have a lot of choices, and you can do your labeling in a couple different ways. So I know that when a lot of people get started, how do you put it nicely? You're on a budget, right? You're not looking for a lot of extra investments. So many people will get started with the inkjet printer. I've got one right here and all my Avery labels. That's a really common way to get started with your labeling, is to just go buy some Avery labels at Walmart or on Amazon and use the Avery online templates to print out what you need. And that is a totally valid way to get started because it requires a lower startup cost. The other option is to invest in more of an investment for your business, which will pay off over time, and that is a Bluetooth label printer. So this is going to be interesting for people who maybe have been baking for a while and realize the time investment that labeling is creating. Because I mean, I know I've heard from many of you in the Facebook group that labeling is like your biggest headache. It takes up a lot of time. So if you can identify with that, if you feel like labeling is the worst part of being a cottage baker, then I want you to try to pay attention to this part and listen to what the different benefits are. So I did sort of a price comparison between using a Munbyn printer and using a Deskjet printer. And I did this based on a baker who prints 100 labels a week. Okay, so maybe that's you, maybe you do more than that, maybe you do less than that, but it's a good like level ground for comparison. So looking at the cost of purchasing a Munbyn printer, your initial cost. I'm using Munbyn as an example. I literally have mine sitting right here and I love it, but I want to give an unbiased review. So it costs $189 to get started with one of these. I like the Bluetooth version because you can do your layout through your phone and an app, and then, send it Bluetooth to your printer. So your cost to get started with a Munbyn is $189 investment. Now imagine that you were a baker who was printing 100 labels a week. Not high volume, not low volume. It's a good goal if you're just starting out. So a baker who prints 100 labels a week, you would need 5,200 labels a year. If you went the Munbyn route, including your purchase price and including 7 rolls of labels, which average about $12 a roll, your total cost for printing all of your labels would be $272. Okay, now let's take a look at the Deskjet printer. So Deskjet printers are attractive because they're a lower cost to get into. I looked at several on Amazon, and it's about $85 to purchase a printer. You can probably get one for even less. Some of you may already have one, and I'll talk about that in a second. But if you were to just buy a new printer, you get in for $85. Now, if you were going to use the Avery labels, they come 300 to a pack, and I think that pack costs about $12. So you would need 18 packs to cover that same 5,200 labels per year. And your cost would also need to include the ink cost, which is something that the thermal printer doesn't have, because a thermal printer doesn't use ink. It uses heat to make the impression on the sticker. So your ink cost on a Deskjet or a home computer printer would be $186. This is replacing color and black cartridges every 8 weeks. Okay, I was trying to find a common ground that seemed pretty average. So your total cost for using the Deskjet home printer would be $514. So looking at those two, if you're using a Bluetooth printer, $272. If you're using a Deskjet printer, your costs are going to be about $514. So clearly, it's more of an economical investment to go the Bluetooth thermal, the thermal printing route versus printing at home. Now let's talk about kind of the pros and cons of that for a second, because if you're getting started with your inkjet printer at home, you maybe already have one. So you don't actually have to put that much money into your business right away. I know that's how I started. I just used the printer that I had and I ordered the labels. It's a no investment strategy that allows you to pay as you go by just ordering the Avery labels that you need. And the benefits are that it prints in color. That's a huge plus. And there's a wide selection of different label sizes and templates that you can use. And you can jump onto avery.com and design those templates at no charge. So those are the benefits. The limitations are that the ink price is higher and the maintenance price is higher over time. Now, if you are at the point where you're thinking about making a more economical choice for your business, then the thermal printer is more cost effective. At the end of the year, you are spending less when you're printing with a thermal printer. It's easy to use. You very rarely have a paper jam. I think for the amount of time that I've been using my Munbyn, the only thing that I notice is when I'm switching, actually have them right here, when I'm switching between my labels, like these are my white circles. Can't really see the white because white on white. And like my pink circles, when I'm switching between these two, I have to feed it through the machine, and it usually like spins through about maybe 4 stickers to program itself. It like feeds it. It goes, choot, 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 choot. Okay, I know what label you want me to print. And then it prints them. But there's no ink to refill. And you are only limited by the type of label that you use. Now, it is true that one of the limitations is that the label sizes, you need to find a label that works with your printer. So for me, using my Munbyn, I need to choose labels that work with a Munbyn. I can't go and choose a different label, excuse me, and put it in my Munbyn because the Munbyn doesn't recognize it. When you go to your app in Munbyn, you have to select the pre-formatted labels that are already there. So you're limited to the labels that Munbyn has available. You have to buy their brand of labels. But they do have a wide range of labels that work for most situations. I will say that one of the areas that I feel like you may need to investigate further is if you are a baker who's required to list sub ingredients. Remember I said like that's where our home bakery group gets a little bit divided. If you're a baker who's required to list sub ingredients, then you may find that you are limited in the amount of space that you have on the particular Munbyn labels. Now they do have there's a 4x6 shipping label. If you're a baker that ships your baked goods, I mean, that's perfect for you. But if you're somebody who does like a cake pop and you have to list all these sub ingredients and your label is like 2x4, you're definitely going to want to investigate whether that label is going to work for the amount of information that you need to put on there. Now, if you're somebody who does the 2 label approach, which is a logo and a contact information sticker, and then your cottage bakery information below that, then your cottage bakery information could easily fit on one of the Munbyn type templated stickers. So there's kind of a breakdown of the different types of options for you, either going with that inkjet at-home option, which is a low startup cost in the beginning, but you are paying more over the course of a year. And then the more of the investment upfront option, which is going with your Munbyn printer and having your cost be spread out throughout the year. So now so I asked this question in my Facebook group about what your questions were with labeling, what your challenges are with labeling. And I had a ton of great questions. Some of them involve the sub ingredients, like we talked about. How are you going to fit all of that information that you're required to list in a small package, like say it's a cake pop or an individual cookie? And for that, I do recommend checking with your state requirements to find out the smallest font that you're allowed to list your ingredients in. Some states are 10-point font, some are 8-point font, and that ingredient label is not about aesthetics. This is not the time to add any fancy detail or any extra words. That ingredient label is literally just for meeting your state requirements. So find out what the smallest size font is that you're allowed to use and absolutely downsize it. Because if you can go to 8-point and you were doing it at 10-point, it makes a huge difference. And you can use a smaller label size, which in turn allows you to be way more efficient with your label printing. For small items, like I mentioned, cake pops and individual cookies and macarons and things like that, I have seen several bakers who are able to fit their 7 ingredients on a sticker that's about the size of a business card. And then they'll take a business card, punch a hole in it, and then tie it onto their cake pop or their smaller items so that they can meet their cottage food requirements, but not have a sticker, not have packaging that actually is the same size as a sticker, if that makes sense. Now, one other thing that is worth investigating is whether you need to individually label each item. So there are some states that allow you to sell at the farmer's market or at an event without actually having a label on your items if you have a resource available, like a notebook with all of your different ingredient lists for each item that you sell. And it is worth investigating because it will save you the time of having to individually label each item. And if your customers are curious about allergens, ingredients, and things like that, you would take out a notebook and have your ingredients list there where they can reference and flip through the pages and get a good idea of what's in that item and decide whether they want to sell it or whether they want to buy it. And you don't have to actually individually label each thing. Because, I mean, let's be honest, that information appeals to about 1 or 2% of your customer base. And if you could skip the labeling because your state allows you to do that, then by all means, that is something that is worth looking into. So those are my 2 tips. If you live in a state that requires sub-ingredients, find out your font size, find out your specific labeling requirements, if it has to be individually labeled or if you can just provide the resource for people. And then consider which printing technology you want to use. Do you want to go and make the investment for a thermal printer and save the time which takes to print? And printing can take some time. For those of you who have done it, it does take a lot of time, but the Munbyn kind of shoots them out super quickly, and it does save not only in time, but in other expenses as well. Or do you want to sort of build your business as you go using the printer that you maybe already have at home and just buying those templates until you get to the point in your business where you're ready to make an investment? Okay, so those are the main points of our training today on labeling for your cottage baked goods. You can find all the links to the references that I made under this video. Don't forget to check out the Bluetooth label printing blog post that I've shared. If you go to visit that one and you scroll down to the bottom, if you're interested in learning more about a Munbyn, or maybe you already have a Munbyn, scroll to the bottom of that post, and I actually have a free resource available. It's my template for creating my labels for Munbyn, and you can sign up for that. It's free, and I'll send you a little PDF cheat sheet for how to create your Munbyn labels. And I've also shared that link for the resource for all your cottage food labeling laws. Now, I just want to take a second and invite you to check out Recipe to Revenue, which is my membership program that helps you, assists you in setting up and establishing your cottage food business. Inside that program, I have additional resources available, including a labeling checklist and customizable templates. So all your labeling is pretty much done for you. You can just click on these templates, whether in Canva or in Avery, to create your labels with less time and less effort. The benefits of being inside Recipe to Revenue are that I give you detailed guidance, much more detail than we go into in these trainings, about legal compliance, labeling, and setting up your business. And you get access to a VIP community. So you can find information on Recipe to Revenue if you're inside the Facebook group. Scroll up to the top of your feed and check out the pinned posts. And if you're watching from YouTube today, then look under this video at the links that I've included in the description box. So I want to thank you guys for joining. If you're on Facebook and watching, I'm going to jump over into the comments after we end this training, and I'll answer all of your questions there, as well as on YouTube. If you have questions about today's training, let me know in the comments below. Be sure to like and subscribe to my channel so you can get more information about setting up your cottage food business. And I want to thank you guys for joining today as we dove into the legal regulations for labeling your cottage food goods. All right, friends, thanks for watching. We'll see you in the next video.